Breaking tonight, a frightening new reality settling over the country. More than 72 hours after nuclear-armed North Korea test fires yet another intercontinental ballistic missile, triggering an aggressive show of force by the U.S., scrambling two supersonic B-1 bombers over the Korean peninsula. U.S. security experts say the missile may reach as far as the east coast of the U.S., giving folks in San Francisco, Chicago, and New York City a little more than 30 minutes to brace for impact. Malice is an expert on North Korea and author of Dear Reader, the unauthorized autobiography of Kim Jong-il. Michael, this has gone from being a theoretical exercise or thought to being something where I have people actually asking me, what are we doing? Is this going to happen? And what could we possibly do to prevent it?
Those are very complicated questions, obviously. So for a long time, North Korea has been threatening the U.S., saying they're going to wipe us off the map. They've been saying this since the 60s or 50s. Now, however, they have weapons that not only can reach us, but those weapons can do monumental harm and do it very, very quickly. Now, the question of what you do is, well, if you have someone pointing a huge gun at your head, just like in a holdup, you have very few options. And especially when this person knows, in the case of Kim Jong-un, if he loses his reins of power, he himself will probably personally be killed, just like Gaddafi did and just like Saddam Hussein did. So there's a huge incentive for him to do whatever it takes to maintain his stranglehold in this country.
What, do you think, is it a surprise that they are this far along in the technology, or did we miss something, or did they just advance more quickly than we thought?
I mean, we try to reason with them and kind of bribe them, and they lie. They have no problem lying all the time. They disseminate constantly. When they're attacked by the UN for having concentration camps, their actual response is, we don't use that expression, so therefore we don't have any. So, I mean, they have no respect for diplomacy or anything like that, and they boast about it in their literature, which I read when writing my book, about how they're conniving and outwit everybody else. They're villains through and through.
So the president wants China to do more.
Right.
Will China do more, and what could they do?
We saw the president's frustration over Twitter. He's like, China's not doing anything. And also him complaining about...
In all caps.
Yeah, and also about complaining about Kim Jong-un. Why is this guy doing this? Does he have anything better to do with his life? There are certain things China can do. However, China does not want a U.S. ally in their border. China does not want 25 million North Korean refugees storming into Manchuria. And China kind of likes the fact that there's an American foil over there. And North Korea is also a source of cheap labor for China. So these are huge incentives for China to maintain the status quo. On the other hand, China doesn't want to be defending college-age students being killed for no reason.
And so do you think that China will step up? Like, what is the leverage point that we have? So the one leverage point that we have that's kind of creeped out in the last week is, if South Korea and Japan are saying we want nukes as well, China does not want nuclear proliferation on that peninsula in that area, because those nukes could hit Beijing just as easily as they hit Pyongyang. However, this is trying to push one country to push another, and that's a very tricky hat trick to pull off. What do you think about the new chief of staff at the White House? He is a military man, a four-star general, Marine.
Right.
Do you think that his leadership at the White House is good and necessary at this time when we're facing this kind of a threat?
Well, I think there's a plus and a minus. Military people tend to like military solutions. On the other hand, every single military person I've heard speaking from this White House has pointed out how catastrophic and disastrous a military option would be, because you would have all those missiles, forget San Francisco or Washington, hitting Seoul, a city of, 10 million people, full of skyscrapers. It would be just a cataclysm like the movie Independence Day, but in real life. So I think a military guide knows how to do strategy, and this is a strategic approach and not a diplomatic one necessarily.
And then, so what are the push points on diplomacy that we're trying right now?
But we're not even speaking to North Korea, so it would have to go through...
Do you think we should? Would you advocate for direct talks?
Sure. I mean, I'd be up for trying anything as long as we're closing down the camps and letting these people leave the country and have access to the outside world.
All right. Malice, author of Dear Reader, something fascinating to read.
Thank you, Dana.
It's getting more important every day. Thank you so much. Also tonight...